Coming up next is a panel discussion on data in the age of customer experience and personalization. This discussion will touch upon points like using data for personalized customer service, the role of big data in enhancing problem-solving efficiency and improved response time. With real-time big data analytics, how can businesses step ahead of the competition and improve the service, etc. I would like to invite Satyajit Sen, Head of Product and Community, ET Brand Equity, to lead the conversation. Over to you, Satyajit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session of the day, which is on data in the age of customer experience and personalization. We all know that marketers and brands, they know that customer interactions can yield a wealth of information that helps them tailor, improve, and enhance customer experience for their brands. With more data available than ever before, in fact, some experts say that by 2025, there will be around 463 exabytes of data created daily, mostly on the back of digital media. Now, the question is, how can marketers and brands make great use of the data and create excellent customer experiences? Brands have realized that one solution fit for all strategy never works, and especially with today's consumers. And so they have to deep dive into understanding their habits, their preferences, choices, patterns, and create unique solutions and experiences that really interests their customers. In this session today, I am thrilled and honored to be joined by experts who have been championing the cause of creating great experiences and creating tailor-made personalization for their brands and their customers. It's my honor to introduce my panel today, and in no particular order: Ms. Darshana Shah, Marketing and Digital Business Innovation Head, Aditya Birla Health Insurance; Ms. Meghna Chetri, Chief Manager at ICICI Bank. I also have Mr. Vakul Agarwal, Vice President Growth at Licious; Mr. Ramashish Singh, Principal Solution Manager, SaaS Global Customer Intelligence, SaaS India, is also joining us today. I'm also joined by Mr. Arun Jayaraman, Head of Marketing, Loyalty, Site Merchandising, and Partnerships at Big Basket. And finally, Mr. Ravish Bhatnagar, SVP and Head of Digital Business at Indus Impact. Welcome, panelists, and thank you for taking out time and agreeing to help us and our audiences understand the nuances of how data can be better utilized to create great customer experiences. So, since we have a lot of brands today, and brands across diverse categories today, so let me start this discussion with Vakul here. So Vakul, we have seen that the e-commerce category uses probably makes the best use of data when it comes to enhancing problem solving efficiency in terms of personalization, right? So how do you look at customer data when it comes to Licious in particular, right? And what are the best use cases of data that you can see from Licious emerging? One personal experience, because I have been a personal customer of Licious. I love the usage of your consumer snapshots on your packaging, right? And that's probably is led by data, and that's probably is a great customer experience example. But if you can give us a little more insight into how you basically look into data and creating great experience.
See, because we are an app-heavy business, we do get data in terms of what the customer is doing on our app.
Mm-hmm.
What all categories he or she is browsing, what all products he or she might be interested in. So kind of, with a very probabilistic manner, with a high degree, we can predict whether a user is interested in a particular category or a group of products, or he or she is interested in multiple categories. And hence, all the marketing pushes and the home feed can be designed basis his or her preference. So that is one powerful use case that we use at Licious, which is being very refined and being very relevant for the user who is logging in onto the app, in terms of either the merchandising on the app or the website, and also in terms of the marketing pushes that we do. So one is that use case. The second is in terms of the frequency that a household buys from us. You as a user might buy from us once every week. Someone would buy probably once every 2 weeks. Someone would buy twice every week. And hence, we know the right frequency for a user, and hence the right time at which we should intervene and not really overdo in terms of our marketing pushes. So that is another thing that we have just recently started. And that was because there was feedback that we are sending too many notifications or SMSs. And then we said that probably let's use data, let's figure out what the frequency is for each user, and then start the communication or the notification at the right time and not really bombard users with our communication. So these are two very evident pieces that we're using. There is third one as well, which we use in prospecting, right? Because we are in a category which will make very little sense if we show the creatives to someone who does not consume non-veg, right? And hence, while prospecting, need to be very sure. So we put a seed audience in all our digital platforms, and then create a lookalike audiences basis few attributes or parameters, so that we don't show the creative to someone which is not consuming non-veg in that sense, right? So from a brand safety guideline, that works really well for us. So these are three broad data points or three broad things wherein we use data extensively right now.
Right. So, interestingly, and I'll come to Ramachus in some time, because, there is one interesting point that you mentioned about overdoing your messaging, right? And so how did you derive in that conclusion? How did data help you do it, right? Because, and again, it comes from my personal experience that whenever I end up ordering, right? So there are at least 4 notifications that comes to me about the same order, right?
Yep.
As a consumer, I might just need one of them, right? I just need
Yep.
that the confirmation happened. Right?
Yep.
So how did you derive onto this intelligence, and how did data help?
So see, there are 2 or 3 things. First is if you look at your uninstall rate and people who are probably switching off your notification from the backend, is there a uptake on that? That is a good reflection. Whether you are on doing more than is required. That is one. The second is qualitative feedback that we take from consumers, from our loyal users, from our lapsers, from our dormant users as well, on what are the reasons why they kind of never uh, or they uninstalled the app, right? So there is a set of users who have uninstalled the app, wherein we had their phone numbers, they had placed a couple of orders or more than that, but have now uninstalled. So what are the top reasons? And in those reasons, if too many notifications or marketing communication is one of the reasons, one of the 5 reasons, then you probably act on that. And also, it's a hygiene thing, right? Even if there is no data reflecting whether we are doing it overboard or we are doing it more, it's it just makes sense to probably be there for the user at the right time, right? Unless and if you're doing this too often, then the value of that particular notification also goes down over the period of time. And hence, we just wanted to be very relevant. This is the very start, because I've recently joined the organization probably 3 months, right? But it's the start of the journey, at least at our end. We'll just continue to focus more and be very relevant when the user wants us, and not disturb him or her any time of the day, just randomly.
Yeah, thanks, Bakul. Thanks for your answer. So I'll just now move on to Arun here, because we are speaking about the overall, larger e-commerce sector, and how e-commerce is being, is using data to churn out, great customer experience stories and personalization stories. So I'll move on to Arun here. Arun, if you can help us, understand how your brand in particular is looking at data, right, and why data has become the new gold, as they say, right, for marketing. And how are you looking at, creating those personalization and, customer experience stories on the back of data?
So just to answer your first question, so I think for us, as it's always been for Big Basket, I think data has been a very critical component in terms of the decisions we drive, right? And it's not only primarily pertaining to say consumer experience, but even our backend decisions in terms of our inventory churn, so on and so forth, is always sort of done through data. So we use a bunch of models to figure out how much inventory to stock, how much to buy, especially with fresh, because fresh is a low shelf life sort of a category, right? And we maintain wastage at 1%, which is like phenomenal, right? For especially for fruits and vegetables, right? So all this I think is on the back of the strength in terms of our data. One, in terms of a data sciences team, the amount of data we store, the kind of data we store. So I think it's very it's been a pretty important aspect. Just moving on to more the consumer side of things, the marketing side of things. See, I think again, data plays a very key role. Meaning, in terms of even, for example, if you take marketing channels that are predominantly not very data centric, right? For example, if we run TV campaigns, or if we do print ads, or even if we do below the line marketing for certain store catchments. So we always have like ways and means or frameworks to figure out if there is any incrementality in terms of footfalls for offline stores, or even traffic to our online stores, new user traffic, all of that, right? And beyond that, I think we sort of tap the whole funnel. So we have all the steps of a funnel which we sort of capture and figure out where to optimize, where are the drop-offs, how do you manage churn, what frameworks to use for each stage in the funnel, right? So we don't have like a dedicated growth team, but we marketing team sort of doubles up as a growth team, and we use data for all these decisions that we take on an everyday basis, right? And especially now with the with us being a data company, so we have a larger sort of access to, if not access, at least a means to sort other consumer cohorts who have never probably shopped for groceries online, right? So I think the next steps for us in terms of evolution is how do we sort of utilize the data, right? How can we tap purchase patterns, consumer behavior, across categories, and make sure that we build campaigns and interventions that are more suited to drive acquisition for groceries as a use case. So I think that's something that we are working on. But just to sort of cut the answer short, I think data is super critical. I think any marketer asked these days, will say that data is critical, and it's the the way that you use the data is more important, because there's a lot of data you sometimes get lost in, gets lost in translation for insights, gets lost in just the volume that you sort of have to sift through to figure out what the right insights are.
Great, great. I'll come to the packaging part later, Vakul, and that is also something that is very interesting in terms of creating personalized experience. But Ram, I really want to come to you here and understand, in your experience of working closely with brands, and businesses, and helping them create tailor-made experiences, right? How do you see the use of data in the entire journey of creating experiences and creating personalization, especially when it is concerned to several various industries across the spectrum?
Yeah, so being on the vendor side, I have the privilege of working with customers across the domain, like you mentioned. Let me share, by the way of two examples, one from telecom and another from banking domain. So one of our telecom domain customer, what we did with them and in a collaborative fashion was to design a one-on-one data-driven personalization. So generally the flow would be, now I feel it's quite simple, is that they will decide that what they are ready in terms of placing as offers in the market. And then basically from there, our analytics takes over and runs rules and machine learning models, and it assigns a set of next best actions to each of the lines, especially on the prepaid side. And they consider dimensions such as data usage, voice, SMS usage, what product plan they are on, and what is the potential lifetime value of this customer. And once these are ready, then they put it into a real-time parking lot, which is used as recommendations and only flashed when the customers are present in the channel. And while presenting, we do some last minute checks, like especially in prepaid, we check balances and similar stuff. And then we do the presentation and help with the fulfillment as well. But if we take another example, like the other bank which is doing it, they have taken slightly different approach. They decided that they are not going to calculate the next best actions in batch mode, as they did not see that as the best use of the infrastructure. And with the enhancement of the capabilities in technology, they just wanted to go ahead and do it all online. And for them, basically, the point was also like only 2 to 3% customers interact across channels on a given day. So they chose to run all of this eligibility, contact rules, analytics on the fly. And then from all the eligibility set, they would arbitrate and eventually present back in the channel. In both the cases, then our orchestration layer comes into play and facilitates the marketer to build the personalized journeys based on the data. The key challenge, if I may talk about that, is around multiple decisioning points and the data silos which gets created due to that. And sometimes it's just the orchestration layer which is not able to stitch all of this together. So these are some of the examples from different domains where data has been the backbone of giving customers very personalized experiences.
Thanks, Ram. Thanks for bringing out the point about banking, because I was anyways going to come to our next panelist today, Meghna. So Meghna, Ram mentioned about how banking specifically, primarily makes the best use of data when it comes to creating personalization and creating great customer experiences, right? What I wanted to understand from you is from an ICSA point of view, right? Where do you see and how do you see the use of data in creating, these experiences and beyond, right? Because I know in the banking sector, uh, as they say, data is the gold.
Thank you for that question. I think data is gold in all segments in today's day and age, right? And in banking specifically, it goes both ways, and I believe and I truly believe that in all businesses, data goes both ways. Better data that banks have on customer gives them better opportunities to decide what to pitch, how to pitch, or probably even when to avoid risk, which customer after a certain point in time will become risky for your business. And also for customers side, uh, the data that they will provide the bank will help them get that seamless experience that we all want as consumers, right? That you should understand my need before I even know what I want. You should be ready there with the pitch of what is the next best thing for me. And everybody today wants the next best thing to be offered before the consumer realizes, because while the decision making may be delayed, they want to be aware of what's there on offer. So that way data helps in both ways, in to the bank to sort of get business, valuable business, quality business, larger business, to consumers in getting best offers, understanding what's next, what's the best decision they can take with their finances. So that's something that banking has been doing and is evolving in our country, right? Yes, there are multiple attempts of it. I don't know if it has been executed seamlessly, but there are attempts in improvising and improving at it, and I think we will definitely get there soon. And not just as one bank, but the entire category, including the fintechs, have been at it. So I think we will be there soon with better results and better data churning.
Now I'd like to move on to Darshana here. Darshana is joining us from Ayurveda Health Insurance, and as we know, the BFSI category has been the biggest user of data, so as to create great customer experiences and personalization. So Darshana, please take us to the your understanding and your brand's understanding on how data recently has become the new gold, especially while creating customer experiences and personalization, especially in this category.
So see, firstly, let me talk about my category, right? So my category, which is health insurance, is currently, or it is historically always been still by consumers known as Mediclaim. And Mediclaim was nothing but just a product by PSU companies once upon a time. So that is how the category has not really moved. When people still think of this as a funding instrument when you are in hospital or emergency. And in COVID, we have seen a lot of these things happening. But what we wanted to move the needle, and when we launched 5 years back, we wanted to focus on health and health insurance, and that's why health first and help consumers manage their health better. So that is where our entire, positioning, entire the differentiation that we bring in as a brand, and where your data becomes a gold, as you said, it is very, very important and rich for us. So we track consumers' data right from when we're prospecting them to onboarding to their, engagement. We have a huge engagement because we didn't want to become a buy and forget as a category, because technically, typically you don't want this to use and you put it in your locker. But we wanted to buy and engage, and that's why our entire engagement as a model comes from really understanding the customer's footprint with us, and all the way till its entire CLTV, as we call it, the lifetime value. And in that we have discovered, so we have this entire philosophy that you stay healthy and we give you reward back. So we give you at least currently 100% of your premium back in your product. So that's where we help them staying healthy. And at every point, Satyajit, we use the data that the consumer has given us to hyper personalize, their need and nudge them towards better health. So if somebody's already told us that, okay, I am a health proactive and I do some activities around my health, whether I'm walking, running, cycling, we start nudging them towards that. We start, asking them that, have you done your 10,000 steps? Have you done your 30 minutes in the gym? Have you done your 300 calories? And so on and so forth at every stage. If you have a lifestyle condition, then we have our wellness coaches that kick in, whether you have diabetes, whether you have asthma, and, helping you manage your diabetes, going for your checkups, taking your medicines on time. So we've introduced a lot of these nudges, and this is where data becomes very important to us. We have something called as your well-being score, which is also done with a lot of data points to say that what is your score, what does your overall potential can be, what your peer score will be, people like you, and so how this is your health score basically, so how you can better that. So in this journey, as you understand it, we use a lot of data points, and we nudge customers towards better health goals, and this is where hyper personalization comes in. On the background of this, or on the back end, we have a lot of martech tools that we are working towards. So whether it is a decision making, whether it is disseminating as per the customer choice of medium and learning that, and so this is all through segmentation. Obviously there is segmented data, we create personas, and we keep using that today. So that's where we are in our journey. I won't say that we have 100%. We are still at a cohort level. We are not at one to one. So we are working with partners. We are using new, see, because what has happened in COVID, a lot of new tools have come in, a lot of martech tools, DMP, CDP. There are various people saying that various tools say we can do various things. But in our journey, we have to stitch and see what is meaningful for us. And that, as a marketer, that's the discovery I am at, that how can I really make one-to-one personalization. That's a journey we are in, to be honest.
That anecdote of how data is being used in the banking sector. Speaking about the banking sector, this brings me to Ravish. Ravish, we would really want to know from you how your bank in particular is gung ho about the goal that we call data.
Yeah. So see, data becomes extremely important, especially when it comes to communicating with the customer, right? At the end of the day, we are an app, and we need to compete. If we want to stay relevant, we need to compete with the Netflixes, the Amazons of the world, right? And if I am not that relevant on the mobile screen of the customer, then it becomes very difficult, right? So from that perspective, data gives us that leverage. And at least in the current market, we some of the banks and some of the institutions have first party data, right? And we also have a lot of demographic behavioral data, how customers are competing, where are they particularly shopping, where are they spending. And in the digital age, customers do want to understand how we can help better. So from that perspective, if we can give that edge to the customers do appreciate that, right? For example, I'll just give you maybe a couple of use cases, right? There is an SIP that is logged in, let's say on 20th for the month, and I have spent more than that is required, right? And I need to ensure that the SIP also goes through. So just giving that sort of an insight, right? Because I know end to end spend for the customer, right? What is going to be coming in a future date? What I've done, and where are the incoming streams are going to come in. So that sort of a leverage, if I can provide to the customer and manage them to help their budgets and spend better, plan better, right? Any customer will want to ensure that, why not, right, will be the answer. But somewhere we don't engage customers to that extent. We don't want, at times, financial institutions at least are not at that stage. But this is very easy, right? And I think many of the financial institutions are in that journey to converse with the customer better. So data is the new oil, for example, but we just need to ensure that our backends, our front ends are structured in the right manner so that we can converse with the customer and provide them with better insights.
Great, and thus move on to great experiences and creating great experiences for them. So you mentioned about first party data, which I would like to come to Bakul here and understand more on it, right? So there is a huge paradigm shift in the way data is being acquired, and there is a huge debate on the third party data and first party data and how things are going to basically shape up for the future, right? So how are you as a brand, first of all, are you worried about the fact that the cookies are going to tumble in the future, and so how are you looking at it? How are you basically strategizing for the data in the world garden scenario that is really
So I think cookies, anyways, will get or will be redundant after a point in time, right? Probably next year. Fortunately for us, we're a very app-heavy business, and will continue to be that app-heavy business at least for some time now. First-party data is where at least we have done well. We are capturing whatever relevant data we would want for the users. And that's the basic that any marketer should do, capture whatever first-party data that you'll need. I think post that, things become a little easier, be it in terms of prospecting. Re-engagement definitely becomes easier because we have collected whatever relevant first-party data you would want. Prospecting also, the reason I say it becomes easier is because there are at least signals that you can hold on to create a lookalike audience while you are reaching out to a broader set on different platforms. So not really that big a concern for at least our business. And most of the e-commerce is app heavy right now, at least in India. So I don't think it'll be a big issue, but yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, as you say.
Yeah.
So Ram, I really want to come to you here and understand, right? How do you see the entire thing, shaping up for the future for brands? Like, do you see, and since you are working with a lot of brands across the spectrum, across categories, how are particular categories shaping up for this entire world garden scenario?
See, the quality and transparency of third-party cookie-based data was always questionable.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it was the truth that when you want to look especially at the prospect or even customers, but they are not within your channel, within your digital premise, that kind of addressable market was primarily possible in this fashion. So everybody knew that it's not the greatest thing to do, but didn't have much choice, basically. The pivot I'm seeing is, like Vakul said already, is towards the zero and first party data, and being able to establish an identity, whether they come like in e-commerce example, it could be, yeah, if you are just mobile app heavy, good for you. But then customers are coming from many channels, and the channels are evolving. Like every 2-3 months, something new comes up. Now, whether this is done via ways and means in-house, or you go for deploying a customer data platform kind of approach, is a choice our customers are looking at. And the word of caution, which we are kind of asking them to look at right now is to define their use cases, to define their needs, and then look for a solution which can solve it for them. Because customer data platforms are also evolving as we speak. And if they try to go other way around, then they may do similar kind of investment which used to happen last time with big data, data warehouses, and a lot of learnings before these things mature. So that's my view, that's how that data gap will be filled in, primarily by giving a lot more focus on zero and first party data and being able to establish identity across the channels within and outside the organization.
Great. Thanks, Ram. So, when we are speaking about data here, right? The one primary thing that every customer is worried about is, and not only customer, the brands are also worried about is data privacy, right? And this brings me to my BFSI friends on the panel here, and I really want to come to Meghna here, right? So, Meghna, in your in your purview, how do you think a bank or a BFSI organization should work with ensuring brand compliance, especially when it comes to gathering data, customer data and customer intelligence?
I think a very, very important and pertinent question that's being raised. So I think for a country like India, the good thing that that we have is we have a central bank, which is RBI, which has stringent rules, regulations, policies, which have to be followed by all institutes under it, right? Everybody has to comply with it. If you are a financial institute, you have to follow those rules, regulations, policies that have been sort of laid out. And amongst that is also the data security, privacy rules. Now, with that, what has happened is that the BFSI segment is already self-auditing themselves every time. It doesn't matter if you are taking, hiring a social media listening tool, or if you are implementing Google Analytics or any other analytics tool. Wherever you have any customer data, which is a PII data that you might be using, there is a certain level of check. There is a clear-cut checklist which lays out that whatever tool you use has to qualify XYZ kind of criteria, should have certain kind of certification, should have certain kind of standard license, etc. Right? Which by itself is again a self check that those partners or platforms that we work with have to comply with. So that way, I think it's not really uh, it's not really been that difficult in BFSI to self-regulate, because those rules regulations have always been a part of it. And SEBI, if I talk about in mutual fund industry, does it very well, and RBI has been also doing that very well for us. So and institutes themselves have been very cautious of what they are doing, how they are doing, because they are continuously under the microscope for their behavior and transactions that deal with, right? Simple things like know your customers, anti-money laundering laws, which were introduced very early before this data even became a concern, are a few examples which shows that at an early stage itself we were cautious about the data, we were cautious about who we are dealing with, how we are dealing with them, and how do we manage them, right? So I think yeah, that's my submission. We are pretty secure in our financial segment, thanks to all the regulations that our central bodies have laid out.
Thanks, Darshana. Darshana, when it's concerned about the BFSI industry, one point about surrounding data that comes into mind, and everybody is very careful about it, is data privacy, right? So what are the steps that your organization is taking as far as to safeguard customer data in that sense, because customers today are very concerned about giving out data.
So obviously Aditya Birla Group is a conglomerate. So for us, these kind of norms, and this has really amplified during COVID. So, at the ABG Group, so all our systems and all our technologies are, when it comes to data privacy, the technology side of it, enablement is common across the group. And at Aditya Birla Capital, which is where I belong to, my business belongs to, again, we being a BFS, non-BFSI company, obviously we are more and more conscious about what we do. So that's where the technologies we've enabled a whole lot more. And then there is a process. So today also we at every stage, so we do take customer consent, and and that is of course mandatory today, right? But if you ask me, then there are still a lot of opportunities. I won't say that we've got 100% all our whilst we are also compliant, so it is also important from that point of view. But I won't say that we've got all our processes right today. So that's again an area where newer technologies and the whole processes are coming in from tech point of view and from the customer journey point of view. And we do have a lot of firewalls because with so many companies, and we are also in the back end of health insurance company or wellness company, and at every customer touch point today, you have to be very careful. So yes, whilst we have some of the process and technology in place, I won't say that we are 100% there. Again, there we are discovering new processes, new technologies specifically, and enabling this. So that's where, but we are compliant as far as compliance is concerned.
Ravish, your take. So how do you see brands in the BFSI category working across
Yeah.
this question of data privacy?
So my take on this is slightly different. So there are two different parts to the story, right? From a data privacy perspective, one is around the users being concerned about their loss of data, or a lot of their data is with banks. So they, when in a regular day-to-day sort of a work, let's say if they are using the app, they are concerned about their identity, and sometimes even the brand identity, the digital identity that can get compromised while using multiple solutions. So that is one part of the problem, right? And as I think Meghnad said, I think over there, for sure, the regulatory bodies have done a damn good job of defining what the digital payment control guidelines are, right? What data needs to be out there, what data doesn't need to be out there. So that, and banks and all the financial institutions stick to it, right? So from ensuring that a digital identity doesn't get compromised, I think RBI and SEBI and everyone are doing their bit, right? Obviously, you still can't technically stop a wishing or a phishing call if somebody is divulging a lot of the important data out there, so that you can't stop, right? But coming to the bigger point, right, which is when when institutions need to provide customer experience, and you already have taken care of the digital, protecting the digital identity of your customer, but still you need to use cloud and use the new age digital solutions to ensure that you are able to provide the right experience to the customer, right? Marketing automation tools are a very good example where computes are where you need to use the compute power of the tool. You need to ensure that part of the data needs to go there, but you need to ensure then you follow a use case sort of an approach, right? Because you cannot have all the data out there, right? The sensitive data needs to be within. You need to ensure that there is the right encryption for those, all the data, whether it is at rest or transit, it is behind the firewall, and you need to ensure you take a use case by use case approach, right? So when you do that, then you can only you use the power of cloud to compute the entire thing. And for storage, depending on again the whether the data is PII sensitive, not sensitive, you then accordingly can grade it, right? And go and implement it as per the use cases that you want to do, and give it to your clients. I think that's the two way of the story. One is protecting the digital identity. Number two is, for providing the convenience, you need to also deliver a lot, and here you need to follow use case sort of an approach, because you need to converse with your the customers want their brands to converse better, and hence you need to leverage some of these great tools that exist. So it's a fine balance that financial institutions need to follow, right?
Great. Thanks for a candid take on this, because that question of privacy and data security is one of the biggest concerns when it comes to customer experiences today. So as we move towards the end of this, session, I'm really, thrilled to be, quizzing all of you on understanding in helping us foresee the trends, right? There are a lot of changes in the way that data is being acquired, data is being analyzed, and then smart decisions are being taken, right? So let's do a kind of a quick rapid fire kind of round where we sum it up in bullet points. What are the kind of trends that you foresee for the future, so far as like usage of data in basically creating personalization and customer experiences are concerned, right? So I'll probably start with Bakul here. So Bakul, why don't you give us a crystal gazing moment here?
See, my take is that be very sure what first party data you would want to capture. Don't capture it more than what you need, because that also becomes tricky, and then you'll not be able to use all of it. That is first. Second is try to move towards one-on-one personalization. I think few of the brands are mature enough wherein they have reached a cohort or a segment level personalization. It's a continuous game. So try to be as close to a user as possible, both on the platform, which is app or website, and also on your marketing communications. So that is the second. And third is generally there is awareness among users. If you're talking to an NCCS A1, A2 households, wherein they do value their privacy. Right? It's a normal trend. It's more in the West. It's catching up in India as well in Southeast Asia. So if not now, then probably in a year or two, it'll become even more as in people will be more aware. So take actions on that. Be very upfront and transparent in the data that you're capturing. Tell it upfront that this is what we are trying to capture. If you would want to give us this data, please do. Otherwise, skip. I think those are the practices, at least, that we are trying to ensure at our organizations.
Great. Thanks, Bakul. Ram, what do you suggest and what do you basically, advise your marketer friends here to really, be ready for, be future ready to, regarding this subject?
So in terms of trends, I just have to say a couple of lines basically. So I think where we are geared towards, and I think all the other fellow panelists have kind of pointed towards it, hyper personalization used to be a hype word. It is kind of becoming real, which is like segment of one, supported by data in the new age AI ML techniques with automation, with scale, which has a cloud element to it as well, but do all of this while maintaining the digital trust. So that's the balance thing, which I think Ravish was kind of highlighting. So I think these will be the trends in years to come in the area of use of data to provide a personalized experience for customers.
Great. Thanks, Ram. Meghna, we'll quickly come to you and understand your point of view.
Thank you. So I have two things in my mind. First and foremost is digital as a key contributing channel, if not the majority channel for sales. So digital sales is the key channel that's gonna go up across all businesses. We can simply look at the number of D2C brands that have been coming up. We are cutting out the middleman and we are going out there and talking to the consumers directly. So D2C digital sales is something that all brands, all advertisers, all companies will be looking at. Second thing is, and as Ravish pointed out, right, while BFSI has so much security in place, it also makes life difficult in sort of making that personalization or personalized communication outside your own platforms difficult. So what I would suggest as a hack is look into your own data, look into the consumer behavior trends of your own data. It will at least tell you what your consumers do, who they are, where they are. Even if you're not able to directly target them, you will be able to be present on those platforms, talk in those languages, like, right? So if you're talking to a high affluence category, what do they like? They don't want to be talked at like a dumb person. They would need certain insights, they would need some uh, directions. So you need to look at your own data and come out with a strategy of what your consumers are and who they are and where you should be to talk to them. So those are the two things that I think will change the game.
Thanks, Meghna. So, Ravish, your points have been really well taken off. So we are really thrilled to hear your points.
So see, I'll just the closing thing. At least there are four things that any organization should do, and out of those four things, one remains of paramount importance, right? And those are important if you want to, be the leader in this current age, right? On at least customer experience, right? One is building the right organization, right? I think with the kind of diverse skill sets that are required, whether it is on content, whether it is on digital marketing, whether it is on analytics, I think just building that right organization is important, right? And critical, because right now we are at least in an age where technology is just blooming, right? And everyone has like some 2 3 offers out there, right? The right set of people at least, right? Number two is getting the right thing on channels, right? I think as Meghna said, I think even delivering that sort of an experience, right, on your channels first, for financial institutions, if you can do that in the right manner, that will be crucial. And then you can think about the other, let's say the broader, whether it is social media or communication world, you can always do that, but ensuring that you do it right on your channels, I think, is of paramount importance. Number three, as Ram said, getting the right tech, right, from a privacy perspective, from a technology stack perspective, from a scalability perspective, right? A never fail architecture. You want to give the right set of performance to your audience. And finally, right, by the way, all the first three things, org, tech, and channels, any organization can even replicate. And even if you don't have the right set of things, you can still get out there, right? But what you will never be able to replicate is how an organization has structured their entire conversation and the communication ability through the stack of personalization, right? Because that is a unique thing which will always stay with that organization, and that is what is going to differentiate one organization from another in the long run.
I really want to, come to Darshana here and ask you about if you can help us with some trends that you really foresee so far as data is concerned, and creating personalized customer experience in the BFSI category, in the category that you are in.
So see, one of the biggest trend, and which I think for a marketeer in a health insurance category, which has been a push category, which during COVID had become pull because there was a lot of anxiety, fear. But in that, we've seen that this whole hybrid model, the digital model, and the consumers being omni-channel is now out to stay. Unlike before, where you could wait for your customers to come to you. To unlike now, you have to be at the various consumer touch points, and literally you will see that even in my category, people are doing a lot of peer-to-peer checking when they are looking at a health insurance. They'll go to some aggregator networks or websites to compare the cost, and finally the final fulfillment can happen on the brand website. It can happen at the bank assurance channel, or it can happen through the agent in their town available. So across the journey today, so you don't know where the consumer is starting their discovery to where they are completing their fulfillment, and that's where, so whether it is prospecting or acquiring a customer, it is omni-channel. Most importantly, servicing customer today is omni-channel. So that's why you have a lot of and that's why your bots come to life, your tech comes to life, your digitization comes to life, so to say. And data at every point is very important, because at every footprint you are capturing the consumer data, whether when you're acquiring them, and like what we do today. So if I have got you in one of my digital platforms, and maybe tomorrow you come to another, so you were on the website and now you come onto my app, or you come to my WhatsApp bot, we have to continue talking to you, we have to continue identifying you as you, and wherever you left, we have to pick up the threads and start talking to you. When it comes to servicing, let's say you're on a renewal journey and you started on my website, and then you suddenly dropped off, so my bot will pick up, give you a call back. Again, you are not sure, you come on my WhatsApp, again we'll pick up. So this kind of a journey, what COVID has really amplified it for us, I think is you're out to stay. Consumers are going to be more and more omni-channel, more and more convenience seeking, and we have to be at their touch points seamlessly, being part of their journey, as opposed to now telling them that, no, you come to me. I think gone are those days. Whether you see it in retail, whether you see it in BFSI, you see in a lot of insurtech has come in, a lot of fintech has come in, trying to help you over there. So I think that's a world out to stay in my mind.
So Arun, let me just come to your understand about, we are talking about, the future of performance marketing and how that data is basically going to shape the entire performance marketing, scenario so far as customer experience and personalization is concerned, right? So when you speak about customer experience and personalization, we have seen, the emergence of terms like omnipresent, omnichannel experiences, uh, uh, like both online and offline experiences, and especially after the COVID pandemic, right? We have seen uh, how consumers have moved towards demanding that omnipresent experience, because they I mean, they want the experience of the brand, they want the touch point wherever they are, right? So as a marketer yourself, right? How do you see, if I may ask you to kind of list down some trends, right, in order to say, foresee how the future looks like in terms of personalization and creating customer experiences on the back of data, right? So how do you see as a marketer this entire subject, developing towards the future?
I think two things. One is, right now, I don't think, online experiences are entirely personalized, right? It's more cohort-driven, segment-driven sort of an approach. I think going forward, personalization at a user level will become, a lot more achievable just purely because of the computational powers that we are seeing, as well as the advent of all these customer 360 platforms that sort of tie in all these threads together into a more seamless, integrated sort of a mechanism. I think that's something that will evolve or mature going forward. I think that's one trend. Second trend is omnichannel of digital is here to stay. I think we are also experiencing that through our offline stores, wherein we are trying to have both online, offline sort of work in tandem for a user. So how do you make sure, for a user across touch points, you sort of delivers, a similar experience, right? If not seamless, a similar experience, wherein they understand what they will get on each sort of channel, meaning offline or online. I think that's something that will, again, is easier said than done. It's very hard to sort of achieve because from pricing to your marketing communication, all that, while it needs to be very personalized and, on point, it's just that sometimes you can also go overboard, right? So where do you draw the line? And, rules and governance and policies on that will also mature, I think, for the next 2-3 years. I think these are the two key things that I see sort of playing out.
It's really great to know that how data is actually plays a significant role in basically creating an organization's identity so far, right? And the better way you deal with data is basically the better how you will be perceived amongst your customers and the business fraternity altogether. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we have tried to scratch the surface of how to intelligently use data and create some winning customer experience stories. I'm sure this space of data is going to evolve, and as we evolve, we should be looking forward to joining all of our experts again and understanding better from them how they are dealing with data in their day-to-day lives. Till then, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you everyone for delving into this discussion and imparting some very interesting insights. With that, we'll move further. Stay tuned everyone for the next session.